Breaking news, insiders. It has been announced that Meghan, Lily and Archie will not join Prince Harry when he is in London next week.
To be honest, chums, did anybody absolutely believe that this could have possibly have happened other than Harry?
I believe Meghan is trying to break him. She believes if she's a widow before William is king, she'll have the title of Princess Henry forever. It's this kind of stinking thinking that makes her so dangerous.
Growing calls for Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, to keep Archie and Lily away from Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis at all costs.
It's very easy to manipulate a drug addict or an alcoholic, especially if you share some of their habits and practices. It's very easy. Just encourage them on the road to perdition and watch and wait while they destroy themselves.
Harry and Meghan have been warned that it is over. They have been warned. Did their royal exit brand finally run out of time? I'm going to explain to you, yes, it did. It ran out of time spectacularly.
You probably saw this coming. Millions did. But while everyone's talking about Meghan pulling out of the UK trip, almost nobody's noticed what Harry did next, or the one sentence from inside the palace that tells you this family is finished. Wait until you hear it.
Harry himself, according to my source, will be absolutely steaming that he has to now turn up alone because, again, it's another big event that he has to carry.
Let's be honest with each other for a moment. When the headlines screamed that Meghan and the children would be joining Harry in London, did you believe it? Because judging by the reaction, almost nobody did. This is the same routine we get every single summer. Will she come? Won't she come?
Nobody truly believed this apart from Harry, did he? I think he felt, Meghan Markle was no intention really of coming back to the United Kingdom. Now, the story goes, right, chums, that apparently, later on in the week, she might grace us with her presence. And if you remember, this has real echoes of what happened over in Canada,
The papers chase it for weeks, and then right on schedule, the announcement lands. Meghan is staying home. Archie and Lilibet are staying home. Harry flies alone, but this time, there was a detail that gave the whole game away. According to a source who saw the family in Portugal just before the announcement, they hadn't packed for any long stay. No signs of a family preparing to cross to Britain. This was a quick European jaunt, nothing more.
Expertly out there in Portugal, well, they didn't really have enough sort of things with them to make sure it was going to be a long stay visit. This apparently was just going to be a European jaunt, a trek and then go back and then come back from there over to here to the United Kingdom.
In other words, the London plan may never have been real in the first place. And here's the part that stings, especially if you're a parent. Sitting in Britain is a father, a king battling cancer, who has never properly known these grandchildren. For weeks, he was allowed to believe he might finally see them. Then, at the 11th hour, it's snatched away, again.
Harry and Meghan decided that they felt they wanted to utilize this as a sort of dangler to His Majesty the King. How about a reunion? Finally getting to meet and connect with your grandchildren. There are other problems around that because His Majesty the King, as you know, still in the throes of battling a certain illness, cannot do with stress, cannot do with blood pressure.
If you've ever waited by the phone for a child who doesn't call, you know exactly what that feels like. Commenters have started using a hard word for this pattern: elder abuse. First, a dying Prince Philip, then an ailing Queen Elizabeth, now a sick king. But what the Sussexes reportedly demanded before canceling, that's when the palace stopped feeling sorry for anyone.
What rug? The only rug under the Sussexes is a flying carpet on which the two of them circle the globe in a cloud of persistent delusion.
Because behind the scenes, this wasn't a family quietly arranging a visit. According to palace sources, it was a negotiation, and the asking price was extraordinary. First, Frogmore Cottage. Meghan reportedly insisted it was the only place on royal grounds where she would feel truly secure. Now hold on.
Markle was insistent that the only place that she would now feel very secure within inside palace walls, the monarchy, whatever you want to call it, would be to be able to, well, now stay in the empty property that is Frogmore Cottage. Surely too many terrible memories there of your passport being taken away, trapped, your car keys, but no, she's overcome that, right?
Is this the same Frogmore cottage she and Harry described to Oprah as almost an insult? The house that was supposedly too small, the one where she claimed she felt trapped, where the passport and the car keys were supposedly taken away. Suddenly, it's the dream address again. Viewers spotted that contradiction in about 4 seconds flat. Then came the request that made even seasoned royal watchers laugh out loud. Use of the royal helicopters.
Harry and Meghan were totally able to get a private jet from one of their friends. They love a private jet. No easy jet for that billionaire loving couple. They could have got a private jet where they would have been met off the tarmac by a chauffeur.
For a couple who lecture the world about carbon footprints, who walked away from royal duty 6 years ago, and who have spent the years since criticizing the very family whose aircraft they now wanted to borrow. Add to that the reported hope for blue light police escorts, the full sirens and motorcade treatment reserved for senior working royals. And who ended it? Prince William. The answer from his side was reportedly simple and final. Meghan would not be setting foot on Windsor land.
This is why he's trying to get the bells and whistles of the security, because he has an ego. He wants to feel entitled. He doesn't want to feel like he gave everything up and he became Superman without his superpowers. He still wants to act and pretend like he has access to some superpowers, but he doesn't.
Not the castle, not the estate. Nothing. Now put yourself in William's shoes for a moment. After everything said about his wife on international television, after the books and the documentaries, wouldn't you draw that same line? The public certainly thought so. Good on William for saying no, was one of the loudest reactions out there. But the paperwork Harry waved around to justify all these demands.
Harry went off like an IED, where once again he was denied official police protection for the family, and as a source close to Harry briefed, the rug was pulled out from under their feet at the 11th hour. That was to the Guardian newspaper. What rug? The only rug under the Sussexes is a flying carpet on which the two of them circle the globe in a cloud of persistent delusion.
One of Britain's top security experts finally read it and took it apart piece by piece.
If it is privately commissioned, which this report was done, it's not been done impartially. And indeed, if you spend enough money on it and you get the right company, and there is also no information about which security company did it. Now, I know most of the big players across the world. They're usually my competitors. Sometimes we play nicely together, sometimes we don't. But I would say that I would know, if I knew the company name, the credibility of the authors of this report and the analysts that obviously brought this information together.
Here's something most coverage skipped. That frightening security report, the one claiming Harry faces serious threats, even from the Taliban, wasn't produced by the British government. Harry commissioned it himself, privately, paid for it. And as one former PR professional put it bluntly, when you want a narrative to work in your favor, you commission your own report.
How do I know this? Because when I was a PR, I would often have to build up narratives to work for a client. The minute I saw Harry had commissioned his own independent report, I thought this is absolutely ludicrous. This is just to suit his own narrative.
That's how the game is played. Will Geddes, one of the UK's leading security specialists, looked at what's been made public and didn't mince words. Nobody knows which security company even wrote it. No independent expert has been allowed to properly examine it. And the 6 key threat points at its heart? In his professional assessment, flimsy at best. Nothing beyond what any celebrity of Harry's profile deals with as a matter of routine.
If you look at, say, something like the big New York wedding currently of Travis Kelce and, of course, Taylor Swift, there will have been numerous threats at that Madison Square Garden mega event. You know, it's part and parcel of the job. Madonna recently launched an album and did many things over here. She has daily threats from cranks who, you know, are out to get her, as it were. But as she's pointed out, you can't let them control your life.
Then there's the claim Harry's team fed to the press that all he gets from Britain now is a phone number for a police liaison. According to Geddes, that's simply not true.
He says he only gets the phone number of a police liaison officer. Is he lying?
Yes, He is. He is. He's not going to get just a telephone number. You know, he will have an assigned police officer from Protective Command, from the Metropolitan Police, or from the Royalty and Specialist Protection Team, who will be there to advise.
In reality, he gets an assigned officer from Protective Command, briefings, coordination with his own team. And this is the remarkable part: access to sovereign-level intelligence. That's live threat information drawn from MI5, MI6, and Counterterrorism Command. Taylor Swift's security can't get that. Harry can. And one more detail buried in all this. Remember when Harry was filmed ringing a doorbell in Fulham, in the very heart of London, looking for a friend? Nobody knew he was there. No mobs, no incident. His own security drove him in and out without a whisper. So ask yourself, how grave is this threat really?
One of the things that they highlighted in the report, which I've been lucky enough to have a peruse over, is the fact that that doorbell situation where he was spotted with pressing looking for a friend, well, nobody knew he was there other than his own security people, right, who drove him there. So if he could go about the business like that in Fulham, in the very heart of London, how much of a threat was it?
This is a man who has flown into war-torn Ukraine more than once. A man who published his own Taliban kill count in his memoir. Does a man genuinely terrified for his life do any of that? But no security report on Earth could protect Harry from what a family friend let slip last week. Tina Brown, the former Vanity Fair editor who knew Princess Diana personally, and who for years was sympathetic to Harry and Meghan, has now delivered the most devastating assessment yet. She says the family conflict has moved past anger into something far more lethal for Harry, a Cold War. Consider the evidence.
Harry doesn't understand that the family conflict has turned into something more lethal for him than anger. And this is the key information. This is the key new information from Tina Brown. A Cold War. Except for his father, who would dearly love to reconcile with his younger son, his relatives have moved on. Earlier this month, there was no invite for Harry to the wedding of his cousin, Princess Anne's son, Peter Phillips.
Earlier this month, Peter Phillips got married Princess Anne's son, Harry's cousin, and not just any cousin. This is the man who stood beside a 15-year-old Harry at Balmoral on the worst night of his life, the night Diana died, and helped console him. Harry wasn't invited to the wedding. Think about how far a family bond has to fall before that happens. But it's what an old friend of William's revealed that truly closes the book. For years after the split, this friend says, William's sense of betrayal came up constantly whenever they talked. It was always there, an open wound. Then, during a recent long conversation, Harry's name never even came up. Sit with that for a second. Not anger, not bitterness, nothing.
Loving detachment. In other words, you can love the person and you're not indifferent, but you have removed all emotion from the equation. I mean, well, all meaning as much as you possibly can. Of course, if they do something awful or something awful happens to them, you will have an instinctive reaction. But still, you know, loving detachment means let go of the emotional reaction.
If you've lived long enough, you know that's the moment a relationship actually dies, not when the shouting starts, but when the silence does.
An old friend of William shared with me that whenever he spent time with him in the years since Megxit, William's sense of betrayal by Harry was a constant theme. But during a recent, long conversation, Harry's name never even came up. And Angela Levin, that is the brutality of it, isn't it? That is the brutality of a Cold War.
And the tragedy is that Harry, by all accounts, feels the opposite. A person close to him says he desperately misses his father, and misses William most of all, the only other human being on Earth who knows what it was to be Diana's son.
Harry wasn't just chasing royalty. He had royalty. He was born into it, okay? And maybe he spent some years wanting freedom from the very thing that gave him his identity. But now, he is discovering something very, very complicated. You can leave the palace, but being Prince Harry can't be reinvented to your own liking.
Tina Brown's verdict was 2 words long, too late. And yet, according to royal biographer Angela Levin, there's a reason beyond betrayal why William keeps the wall up, and it involves his children. Levin claims Harry has repeatedly asked to look after Charlotte and Louis, reasoning that since George will be king, it's the younger two who will grow up as spares, and he understands that life better than anyone.
He has asked if he can look after the children, especially Charlotte and Louis, because they're going to be not in it all, whereas the older one will be the next king or two. And he doesn't want him to look after them. And Harry's kept on saying he wants to do this, so they have to cut it off because they don't want Harry telling them how to look after their children.
On paper, maybe he believes he's offering wisdom. But according to Levin, William and Catherine were having none of it, and viewers found the whole idea genuinely unsettling. The man who wrote a book declaring the Wales children were in danger from the monarchy itself now wants a guiding role in raising them. As one commenter put it, he should keep their names out of his mouth, and it cuts the other way too. Growing numbers of voices, including American commentators, are urging William and Catherine to keep George, Charlotte, and Louis well away from Archie and Lilibet if the families ever do cross paths.
Harry really is trying to push this on the 2 children. The 2 children that His Majesty the King has no connection with whatsoever, and really neither does any of the public. You know, if we honestly saw these children for the very first time, would we truly know who they are?
Not out of cruelty to the little ones, everyone agrees the children themselves are innocent. The fear, fans say, is what the parents would do with the access. Photographs of the Wales children are worth millions. Private family moments have a track record of ending up in books and Netflix specials. As one viewer put it, anything those kids say or see becomes content. Meanwhile, the saddest figures in all of this may be Archie and Lilibet themselves, raised behind compound walls in Montecito, rarely seen, reportedly isolated from cousins on both sides of the family.
You don't know if Archie and Lily are civilized, right? They might eat with their toes and, pick things up with their feet. I don't know what's been going on because they've been living on the frickin' compound like children of the corn, and like the hills have eyes, and we never hear from them.
Even Meghan's own father, recovering from the amputation of his leg, has never met them. And the timing of this whole circus.
The reports are out that Meghan will not be joining Harry, and the invisible children will not be joining Harry for the London part of this trip, although the Midlands part of the trip has not been confirmed as to whether they will or won't attend. Don't be silly, they weren't going to lose another press angle and put all of the information out at once.
It brushed against a date that should have been sacred. This trip window fell around what would have been Princess Diana's 65th birthday, 65. For those of us who remember her, the wedding, the dresses, the walkabouts, that terrible morning in Paris, it hardly seems possible. And according to one well-placed royal source, that date may not have been a coincidence at all. The theory circulating is that Meghan saw an opportunity, a reconnection with Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, and perhaps even a photograph at Althorp, a reunited family image with Diana's resting place as the backdrop.
The only reason she may turn up is because she wouldn't mind a new connection with Earl Spencer, Charles Spencer, the brother of Diana, Princess of Wales. And likewise, as this was Diana's 65th birthday, this would be something new to talk about, wouldn't it? A picture, a reunited family picture with a splinter family, right? This is the true reason what's going on.
Fans were horrified at the suggestion. They're going to merge her grave, one wrote, and thousands agreed. But anyone who knows Charles Spencer knows how that story ends. This is a man so protective of his sister's memory and his family's privacy that observers say he'd never allow cameras anywhere near the island where Diana rests. The gates of Althorp don't open for publicity stunts, and here's the contrast that says everything.
It just is astounding to me that she had so much humility despite what she was born into. I think that is what makes her so beloved by people all around the world.
That very same week, Catherine, a woman still recovering from cancer, quietly climbed 3 mountain peaks for charity, then turned up unannounced at Wimbledon, handing out tickets to fans who'd camped overnight, chatting away with barely any security in sight.
Likewise, we have Catherine, the Princess of Wales, issuing tickets, meeting people and greeting with minimal security in Wimbledon. This didn't play out well because clearly there are many different sides of it and many different issues.
No demands, no helicopters, no drama, just service. which makes what one newspaper did to her that same week almost impossible to believe.
Just wanting to show the good work of the Prince and Princess of Wales. I'm big fans of theirs, and I love to see how they are getting along with regular, everyday, average people, making surprise visits, doing things that are keeping them true to the love that they have for whether it be sports or, doing a podcast. It gives you these warm, fuzzy feelings about them.
A columnist at the Daily Mail published a piece declaring that Catherine had made a rare mistake in how she handled her cancer diagnosis because she hasn't told the public what type of cancer she had.
Firstly, the Daily Mail, and I think actually their lowest attack on Catherine yet. I know you were completely disgusted by this. Let me just show you. So it was a columnist called Julia Lawrence, but headlined, "Kate has made a rare mistake in how she's handled her cancer diagnosis." They have the platform, they have the following. All they need is the guts to speak out. If only Kate would tell us what type of cancer she has.
Read that again. A woman fights cancer, comes through treatment, climbs mountains for a cancer charity, and a national newspaper's complaint is that she owes strangers her medical file.
Overriding Catherine's Three Peaks Challenge, overriding William's events, it is all about what they need. The problem is, and this is the interesting thing, talking to people who have worked with them, is they don't understand that this negative is also impacting their brand.
Angela Levin, normally measured, was so disgusted she fired back publicly, calling it vulgar, rude, and deeply unfair.
I just was astonished how somebody who actually has got some problems herself could actually be so vulgar, so rude, and so unfair, and that the paper could actually have that sort of speaking out that she must tell everybody what she's like. You don't expect people to tell you the details of your ailments, even if they're small. But to expect something like that, especially when she's doing so well.
And remember, this is a woman whose hospital records were already targeted by staff during her treatment. She has had to fight for medical privacy once before, but the most powerful responses came from ordinary viewers. Cancer survivors flooded the comments. One woman described 6 months of chemotherapy followed by 6 months of radiotherapy and said not one person ever demanded to know her diagnosis because it was nobody's business. If you fought that fight yourself or held the hand of someone who has, you know the truth in your bones. A diagnosis belongs to the patient and to no one else. Not the press, not the public, no one. Which brings us to the question even Harry's remaining defenders are struggling to answer.
The world already knows the story of Harry and Meghan leaving the royal family. People now, they want to know, well, who are Harry and Meghan without the royal family? And if they can't answer that question, which we know they can't, they failed in Hollywood.
Because after all of it, the canceled trip, the rejected demands, the shredded security report, the family silence, what exactly remains of the Sussex project? Start with Invictus. Harry's camp raised the specter of a mass casualty threat around his appearances, and in doing so, he may have handed the charity the perfect exit. If his presence endangers wounded veterans, the argument goes, then the kindest thing he can do is step aside.
Harry has, of course, given Invictus the mechanism to get rid of him. Whether they will take it or not is a moot point, because just as what happened with Netflix with Harry and Meghan is happening with Invictus. Some people want to be rid of him, other people don't. And let's remember, the same scenario played out with Meghan and Harry over a 2-year period before they got rid of Meghan and Harry.
Veteran supporters in the comments are already calling for exactly that, some even talking of boycotts. And security experts believe this entire fight was never really about this summer at all. It's about locking in protection before Invictus 2027.
And I've always said, it's Invictus 2027. Yeah, I think he's got his security, but even if he hadn't, he's got until 2027 to get what he wants.
Then there are the titles. Calls to strip them grow louder by the month, sharpened by a detail that set off fierce debate. Commentators note that if Meghan were ever widowed rather than divorced, she'd keep her royal style for life.
It's long been said that Meghan would rather be a widow than a divorcee. If Meghan is a widow, she remains Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex.
Whatever you make of that discussion, the fact that it's happening at all tells you how little goodwill remains. And finally, there's the king, a sick father who, by every account, would dearly love to reconcile with his younger son before it's too late, and a son who keeps finding ways to make it impossible.
And as we've seen over the last week, these two have really played into the dramatics. Every single day leaking their thing.
Because here's the truth, this whole saga keeps teaching, and it applies far beyond palaces. Some doors, once slammed hard enough, simply don't reopen. Harry lands in London alone, and the silence waiting for him there may be louder than any headline. William's full response, and what Catherine reportedly said behind closed doors, is in the video on your screen right now. Tap it before it's gone.